Welcome to the stories of Detective Pootysims. Don't be scared, it's just a story.
Good day. And welcome to my channel. My name is Warren Pootysims. I've recently have been viewing a couple of these stories on YouTube about fellows like myself in this strange little world we call Sim. If you have a bit of time to waste, allow me to entertain you with my life. Ah yes, indeed. Today I will tell you of the tale of the notorious Sims slasher. It's a case that I worked on for quite a while that led me to where I am today. Alone. I suppose, for your suppositions about me, we should begin with my own story to allow you a familiarization with your humble host. I am currently retired, after 40 years as a sergeant inspector, for the Sims Police Department. I now live in this rather large house that I acquired from an odd little bit of a fellow who was obsessed with being a vampire. While I have no first-hand knowledge of whether he was a vampire or not, he was eventually incarcerated in the Sims State Mental Facility where he is still, after these 40-odd years, relatively secure in his padded room. As you can see, I do enjoy playing the organ and the piano, as I used to play quite well. I would often play for my wife in the mornings. I also have become rather proficient in cooking, and enjoy developing and eating interestingly good food and drinking, I'm afraid, my vintage wines. That's quite good if I do say so myself. Indeed, I have been quite taken by this internet, and enjoy watching various videos on the YouTube. After careful consideration I have decided to write my memoir, and lay bare the story that impacted myself, as well as my many fellow Sims. Until it stopped. Rest assured, my good friends, I will try to maintain a subjective tone while writing this for the world to judge my experience. But I am afraid, after all this time, I still find the facts of this story quite unbelievable. So here we go. I suppose it all began quite innocently enough, as I had just acquired a new position as a patrol bobby for the Sims Police Department. My new assignment was to be the headquarters of the local Windenburg office, assigned to pedestrian service duties. That's my wife we spoke of earlier. Her name was Eliza. We had met when I was at university studying criminal justice. I had spent considerable time there in my off-study hours researching criminal psychology, and the working of the criminal mind. It would prove invaluable, as we shall see. So on a bright and glorious morning I reported for active duty in my shiny new uniform. The officer in the greeting vestibule greeted me warmly and, after some pleasantries and light banter, he informed me that the chief inspector would like to see me before my scheduled shift. I made my way to his office. The chief inspector was a young chap. I had been informed he was indeed quite brilliant and that I would do quite well to allow his mentorship, if offered. I was not disappointed when he explained that I, as a newly minted officer of the law, would be assigned to an undercover position on a current case being investigated. It seemed that a new type of drug was being experimented with by the local youth. It had a deadly effect on them, as they soon became hopelessly addicted and would eventually succumb to its more darker side. The drug was known on the street as grilled cheese. A strange nom de plume if I do say so. But who can hope to follow the dialogue of the young? I was directed to the officer in control of evidence acquisition and she informed me that I would be drawn £1,000 for work to secure a connection in the grilled cheese underground, and she stressed to maintain records of every penny spent. To both do so might cause, shall we say, an issue. I even had an opportunity to advance my logic skills a bit more, but duty calls and a nice walkabout was the order of the day. This town of Windenburg is actually quite impressive. Several surrounding cities are, shall we say, less pleasing to the eye. The poor town of Magnolia Promenade was required to enroll in officer training class, yet really was simply a shell of a town with only 3 viable offerings. Quite sad. Also the equally sad experience in the little town of Forgotten Hollow, where I reside today, with a dark and gloomy look, and just, again, 4 viable homesteads. 2 remain available for purchase, but that's pretty much it. I had never been to the desert town of Oasis Springs, and was actually informed while 2 main families enjoy a pleasant environment, there were several families living in poverty and simply trying to survive. It was on this walkabout I actually met my first inroad to the grilled cheese market. Another detective with the service found me on my tour and explained that the rise in grilled cheese abuse seemed to be coming from the club scene, at the various taverns in each city. He suggested that I, as a new patrolman, might try the clubs for information. He wished me luck. I was afraid I would indeed need it, and as I stood there and thought, here we go. I arrived home and discussed my new assignment, explaining I had to leave for the night. My Eliza was kind. I will admit I had reservations in telling her I was about to enter the nightclub scene, but she only expressed her love. She insisted that I dress accordingly and take a short soap shower to get ready. With that, I have an embarrassing admission in that I never did properly discuss the dangers I was about to allow to myself, but I was confident that my efforts were noble and might help bring an end to this scourge on the Sims under my protection. Whether they wanted it or not, I arrived at the local pub and began my investigation with some casual conversation about what this grilled cheese was, as I had heard a great deal of it as of late and was wondering about how much it would cost. I was directed to find a bald gentleman who frequently sits at the bar. I made my way to get a scotch and soda, my favorite cocktail. As luck might have it, I was pleasingly surprised to see that my contact information was indeed there. So I swiftly inquire about this opportunity to procure some grilled cheese. He cautiously said to discreetly seek out a certain rather, shall we say, large woman in the club who frequented the dance floor. She may be able to help me. I made my way to the floor. I met an old family friend who was enjoying a night out. Mrs. Bellagoth, a local woman of means who resided in the northern town of Willow Creek, a rather affluent city with a variety of people and several interesting and quaint attractions. I will admit I did develop a slight crush on her only daughter for a brief summer. But that is another story for another time. Suffice to say it was before I met my Eliza. And as luck would have it, I also met Lucy, and as she appeared to, how shall I put this, be the only, large girl on the dance floor, I assumed it was she I had been directed to. She suggested we continue our conversation in private, and we both discreetly made our separate ways to the rear of the club. She was quite jovial, and offered to make a call and help me secure some of this grilled cheese the kids were mad about. After agreeing on a price, £100, she gave me the number for her contact and bade me to set up a meeting. I gratefully accept the offer, and after further pleasantries, returned to dance floor. And so I prepared to call it a day, but before I did in fact leave, I met a rather attractive young woman named Candy. She was quite a stunner, so please forgive me if I conversed with her for a moment. I am married, but I'm not dead. Not yet anyway. I returned to my Eliza, and took a moment to comfort her and recite my day's activities, as was our custom, you see. And with that we decided to call it a day, and together we went to bed. I was awoken by the tell. Something was amiss, and the chief calmly requested my immediate presence at the station for debriefing on the matter. It would prove to be another interestingly sad turn of events. It seemed a young local girl had been spending some time drinking with friends at a pub, and, after her night had been finalized, she left to go to her home, a few stones throws away. She had never returned. Her friends had tried to contact her, but to no avail. I was instructed to be a part of the investigation. The young local girl who was reported missing, as my supervisor informed me, was a Miss Candy Bore, of the local township. I went immediately for the girl's home to assist in our investigation. I felt a bit tense, as I had quite possibly been the last person to visit with young Miss Candy, and I felt an obligation now to solve this latest quandary. Was it connected to the grilled cheese club scene, or was something more sinister involved in her disappearance? It was not quite put together yet, but my suspicions were growling now. I hate to say it, like my spidey senses were now on full alert. After processing the home for clues, I returned to the station to report. Again, for no apparent meaning to me, I felt that some physical exercise might be of use. I took a moment to work out with the station's equipment. Having been in rather good shape throughout university, I had become quite lax about myself, to be partially blamed on my Eliza's cooking skills. And, as well, perhaps because I enjoyed just relaxing, and had lost any inclination to exercise. However, with the advent of this new wrinkle, I began to think I may need to be prepared a bit more for the unexpected. I would be proven right soon enough. As you can see, I was rather unfit, so the workouts would now become more, shall we say, scheduled. I then filed my report, strategically omitting my brief encounter with Miss Candy, and documented my £100 soon-to-be acquisition of grilled cheese for a local dealer. Then I returned to my Eliza. We again discussed my latest case, and I took her advice to continue with my work. I complained slightly of the creeping soreness in my muscles from my impromptu exercising that afternoon, and she cheerfully complimented my new athletic tone, though it had not changed much since that morning. She was a dear. I do truly miss her. And with that I spent the rest of the night in the rapture and comfort of my beautiful wife. And so, dear friends, we come to the end of the story so far. I would awake to find a much more complicated and evil plan unleashed on my fellow Sims. But that will be on the morrow. Good night.